It is August 13th, 2021, and a few days ago, we got the latest and the last release of the Milestone Returns comic line with Hardware number 1, Season 1. This was the last one, and this was kind of like, I guess, the least anticipated, quote unquote, with the success of Static and then the success of Icon and Rocket and the Milestone catalog. Hardware was kind of the, let's just say, the redheaded stepchild of the group. So finally got Hardware number 1. It came out a few days ago. I've heard good things about it, and I was optimistic about it because kind of the first, for the listeners out there, you know how we felt about Static number 2 and Icon and Rocket number 1. So far, let's be honest, the launch to me has been kind of meh, kind of like okay, but hasn't really lived up to that Milestone name so far. So, Hardware number 1 got released, man. I know you just read it a couple minutes ago, finished reading it. What was, I guess, your expectations for this series, kind of being a newcomer to it, and what's kind of your first impressions?
So, for me, kind of not being familiar with the character Hardware in relation to Milestone and everything like that, I went into this with a completely blank slate. I had no, and I'm not saying that to be negative,
Okay.
but I didn't have any real expectations for this here. I appreciate that, kind of like you were saying in the text, the artwork and the crew that's kind of responsible for this relaunch of Hardware are originals. These are people who were actually a part of Milestone Comics going back to the original days. So that right there gave me enough reason to be interested in it, even though I don't have a whole lot to go on in relation to the character. I do kind of like that it feels okay. Some of the things we talked about with Static is that feels like it's set to appeal to a younger slash newer kind of comic book hybrid manga anime type audience. I
Yep.
do like that this feels like it's meant to appeal to our kind of age demographic here. It feels like the focus and direction from the artwork to kind of just highlighting the character getting through one isolated situation as opposed to, well, this might happen later on, or these things will happen. And we're picking up with Hardware kind of like boom, we get right into it and we see what he's doing in this world that he occupies.
Right.
So as far as expectations go, I mean, I didn't really have too many expectations, but that was a good thing because the backdrop for this story kind of did it a little bit more service as opposed to, oh, Static Shock is coming back. We got these high expectations for Static Shock because that's the brand recognition, or there's these high expectations for Icon and Rocket because that was supposedly like the sleeper series that we were looking for. So I think that lack of expectations kind of helps out in this instance with Hardware. You know what I'm saying? What you think, bro?
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that because Icon Rocket was that sleeper hit of the original the original run of Milestone. And Static, I mean, the branding, the recognition, the status of that character, that was our most highly anticipated. We've been waiting on Static since New 52, since
Mm-hmm.
beginning of that. So Hardware was a mix because I don't even think, if I can remember correctly, DC fandom a year ago they started announcing this lineup, and I don't even think Hardware was announced to be a part of this. To be honest with you, I think Hardware, if I can remember correctly, I believe the one of the Milestone originals here, Dennis Cohen, I believe he stated that he wished he got more Hardware. He liked Hardware and he wished he got Hardware in the lineup. And I believe it was, I guess, addressed, and he got what he wanted with this issue. Um, yeah, a blank slate is the best way to go for this because when you have those high expectations and it delivers kind of flat, it's like it's hard to enjoy the book. And I feel like with this book right here, it definitely helps with my enjoyment because I was hearing positive things, and the fact that Dennis Cohen was on this helped me feel better about this book. Because again, he's a Milestone original, and he can kind of tell you how it is, or he can adjust maybe a few things. He may not have complete creative control, but he can direct it in a way that's, I guess, beneficial for the book. And I do feel like I agree with you completely. This one was more for the hardcore. This one definitely was more for the fan who grew up on the original Milestone run. This is definitely for that 25 plus age demographic. This ain't trying to get a kid to turn away from My Hero Academia, or Fortnite. This is not an introductory series like Icon or Rocket for a newcomer. This was like you said, boom, you're right in here. You get a little bit of, I guess, a backstory and exposition of how this character came to be. But for the most part, this hits the ground running, expecting you to just keep up with it. And I like
Right.
that. I liked it. It had a sense of urgency to it.
And yeah, to kind of piggyback off of that, I don't know how accurate I am in this, considering that I'm not familiar with the character, but there's a sense in this that there's the expectation on the reader to kind of already be familiar with the character a little bit as far as what he's capable of and his backstory, and then just carry that into this new setting. That's the vibe that I get. It feels like there's a little bit, not much, but a little bit of informal inside baseball is the term that I'm going to use as it applies to just the way that the story picks up kind of in the middle of everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Because honestly, if we're being real, who else but the hardcore is going to pick up hardware?
Yeah.
Like who else besides our age demographic is like they already know. Give them what they want, which I completely agree with those sentiments. Yeah, the gloves are off, and I like that because it did give it the sense of urgency. And so, I mean, just going through this issue was pretty straightforward. It was a pretty
Mm-hmm.
streamlined issue. You got a little bit of a backstory on his origins, have being a child, growing up, being with his father at a protest, and then growing up to be this Tony Stark tech guru for a company called Ava Industries.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out that this company he works for ultimately set him up for the okie doke because they're the company behind the gas that was used in the Big Bang 2.0, which was the Black Lives Matter protest, which turned the protesters into superpowered beings, and some of them, let's just say a good percentage of them, didn't make it to even get powers. They died right then and there on the spot. So
Mm-hmm.
Ava Industries blames Curtis Metcalf, saying that he designed the gas, it's his fault. And boom, the police are on his ass like ASAP. ASAP. I mean, I think he just suited up, and you just see the tank roll in his facility there, and tell him to put his hands up. They're gonna take him in, and I like that they showcase that he is wasting no time and not trying to talk them down. He's just basically a man on the run.
Yep.
And it shows that throughout this he escapes, he explodes, he sets off a self detonation for his little base, and those officers are dead.
Oh man.
Man, he is catching bodies in this issue, man. Like
Yeah.
no
Playing for
remorse.
keeps. Playing for
playing for
keeps. Man.
playing for keeps, man. Yeah, he does not have this no kill. This is it. This is dog eat dog world, and he's trying to make it out here alive. So he takes to the sky. He's got two armed helicopters going after him, and he makes quick work of one of them. Real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, man. He caught a bad one.
Yeah, man, real quick work of one of them, and I like the art of this. It's really, man, just the action it's composed really well. You can follow the panels very nicely. You can see a little bit of his abilities with the tech, the rain, the shadow effect. Dennis Cohen really went in his bag to showcase why he has this notoriety and why is he special inside the comic industry, because this nighttime scene of him flying through the air and attacking the helicopter is almost, for the most part, worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
This is one of the most slickest action sequences I've ever seen
Oh,
in a
word?
comic book. Well, recently, yeah, recent memory, yeah, man. This is for me personally, it's a joy to look at this whole sequence right here.
And and
The mood and the
and
lighting and everything.
and kind of something else I just want to mention here
Yeah, go ahead, man.
in relation to what you're saying. This isn't the end all be all, but when you actually are reading a comic book on print, the panels, the way that the panels are framed on the page to kind of give you the full overview of the scene is important. And just to highlight what you were saying, it feels like you're looking at an action movie, looking at these panels the way that they are on the page here. It,
Yeah,
it it's engaging. You know, your eyes are always kind of drawn to what's there, but it feels like, even though you can't hear as you're reading, you can't hear it. But I'm looking at this, I feel like I can hear the bullets whizzing by, or that I can hear the explosion and feel the heat from the fire and all of that by looking at these pages. And I
right.
like that. That's a good feeling there, man. I'm not flipping through these pages anticipating the last page. I'm flipping through these pages kind of excited about what's going to be on the next page. So they definitely got on the scoreboard with that in my book.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's a visual medium, and they delivered on that. Dennis Cohen delivered on that easily, man. Now for the story part of the point of view with the story,
Uh-huh.
this is where I think the issue runs into some problems. With the story, because well, I'll just go through the rest of the issue, and I think I'll dig more into Curtis Metcalf, what they changed for this new version, and what his original one was sort of like. So,
Uh-huh.
he's getting chased through the air. He's able to avoid the two copters. He makes good work of them, and then we cut to the head of Ava Industries. I forgot Homeboy's name, but the CEO, right? And he's being investigated by the police and saying, Curtis Metcalf, why would he do this? He's going down tonight, and et cetera. We got to get him. And the CEO kind of goes a little bit into a backstory of he's known him since he was a child. He's kind of raised him almost like a father figure. He's kind of gave him those resources and tutelage for him to succeed in life and to kind of basically make it out the hood and become a self-made successful guy. You know what I'm saying? He did the
Daddy
damn, what's the
Warbucks.
yeah, what's the show that was it Different Strokes?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. He did Different Strokes basically.
Mr. Drummond. Mr. Drummond.
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Drummond. He basically is the Mr. Drummond CEO type guy. And so he's just going through the backstory of him, and then he says that they were involved with the argument, and he was testing his patience, and he used this Big Bang event as sort of an opportunity to destroy his company and everything they built together. So with that, you get a little. That was basically a little exposition of his backstory, of Curtis Metcalf's backstory from the CEO's perspective, and then we cut back to Curtis and Hardware, and he's kind of licking his wounds a bit. He fell from the sky. He was unable to recover his rocket pack in time,
Uh-huh.
so he kind of gives a reboot. He has an AI that's named, was it Dad? Found out a
Pop.
little bit. Pop.
Yep.
Yeah, I found that very interesting. The way he did that, kind of like a way to, I guess, remember his father who was no longer with him. So he basically recovers himself. He flies to Ava Industries. On his way, he completely destroys a copter, another copter. Um, he arrives right outside the CEO, his office. Right, he's right across the skyscraper. He's looking at him,
Right.
and he yells. He has some harsh things to say. It's kind of a heartfelt moment. You tried. He yells at the CEO. You tried it, and the CEO's like, I did. I had to. It wasn't personal, Curtis. Curtis
I
is like,
like that though. I
yeah.
like.
Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, the CEO, his name is Edwin Alva,
Okay.
but I was just gonna say, I like that. It's not all now. Now, yeah, there's an issue between the two of them, but I like that it's not all yelling. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a situation where there's an issue because too often throughout certain mediums you see the good guy and the bad guy kind of having their conversation, and it starts out as a shouting match. They instantly go from 0 to 100 in a snap just because they have an issue between each other. I
Mm-hmm.
like that they're talking to each other as regular people because they know each other, because they have that established kind of relationship and background. It's a subtle kind of thing, but I like it because it feels more natural that way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, anytime you get the bad guy and the good guy, and it's a yelling match, and they're flexing muscles, and they're posing off, and then they going kind of right at it. And this is, like you said, it was more personal. It was more they know each other, they understand each other very well, and the CEO, what's his name again? Forgot.
Edwin Alva.
Edwin is basically saying that he's basically saying that I made you. I made who
Oh
you
man,
are. You
man.
know, everything in life that was gained is because of me. And the hardest line, and I know this, I had some problems with this line because I felt like it was a cheap shot. And I know you probably know the line is the line of "I made you matter."
Yep, that's the money line right there. That was the
Yeah,
money line.
that
That was
was
that.
the.
Mm. Yep, yep.
Yeah,
That.
man.
Mm. Mm. And you knew it was the money line because it's bolded. It's in bold lettering as well, to where you can't miss what's being said. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and then you Curtis Hardware doesn't even respond.
Nope.
He just kind of sits there and just takes it, So Edwin kind of continues to kind of gloat and boast about how he's in a better position right now. And, I think Hardware has enough. Shoots a little missile at the glass, pops in there, and basically states, I can kill you, but that'd be too easy. And after all this is over, we'll see who made who, end quote, and flies away.
Now,
And yeah, go ahead.
now, how do you feel about that though? Like, does that it, does that make a lot of sense there? Because I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
don't know how I feel about him acknowledging that he could kill him right there on the spot, but chooses not to. But now the journey to get to the point where he's trying to get the victory over this guy is damn near going to be, I'm not going to say impossible, but it's going to be overly difficult. I'm not saying that he needed to kill him, but I know we got to play it up for suspense and everything like that. But what was stopping him from just grabbing him out of the air and, like, you know what I mean, tying his hands together and then getting the evidence? Why?
Right.
What reason does he have to let this man remain free while he is spending the rest of the time on the run? And now The next time the two of them are in the same room together, he'll have had to jump through 10 different hurdles. So I'm hoping that at some point there's a way to make that make sense.
Yeah, man, for sure. Because if you look at this guy's his track record so far in this issue, he's blown up his own his own headquarters, his command center, control. He blew up his own control with other policemen / soldiers in there. He's destroyed helicopters with personnel in there. And now you get to the man who's responsible for this whole thing, and essentially he made you who you are. So you took down lives throughout this whole issue. You come to the man who's responsible for putting you in this exact same position, and you say, nah, that's too easy, and I'll show you what's really good. And you leave.
Mm-hmm.
That is kind of forced. I think forced in a way that he would more than likely at least hurt him, or like you said, take him with him for evidence. You know what I'm saying? The torture technique, like, okay, I know you framed me, so who did it? Where's the data? Or is it encrypted? Is it in hardware, like slot, like computer, like who, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Bruce would have tied his ass up,
Right.
hung him upside down from a skyscraper, from so far away where no one could tell, and basically ruffled his feathers for some evidence or some some answers.
I agree. Yep, I agree. I just don't know how to make that make sense. That's the part I'm kind of struggling with there. I'm sure they can figure out how they want to do it, but as of right now, I didn't really dig that. That kind of took me a little bit out of it. You know what I mean? Because you didn't really walk away with the W.
No, no, not at all. And you did all that for a warning. Like, I'm warning you. I'm gonna show you that I'm a self-made man, and you didn't make me. Yeah, that landing, that cliffhanger. No, I mean, it's not really a cliffhanger because we know he's gonna go, search for evidence. But I think a better way to end this would be for him to, he's aiming to take the shot, and he gets interrupted. So, that would have been a more of a personal thing where it's like, is he going to take the shot or is he not going to take the shot? You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. You could have ended a cliffhanger like that. And then the next issue, security shows up and interrupts the shot or something like that, or interrupts him from taking the shot. So he escapes. Him basically, because now he's not going to kill him. Like that tension of him wanting to take revenge on the man who put his life basically in peril is kind of gone. Like,
Yep.
he's not going to go that length. He's willing to go to the fullest length of proving his innocence. It's like, how are you going to clear your name by catching bodies? I don't.
Well, yeah,
That doesn't kind of add up for me either.
right. Like, and not for nothing, bro, but that's like, oh man, it's almost like when you're booking a main event match between your heel champion and your baby face or whatever the dynamic is, right?
Right.
That's almost like having the baby face hit his finisher on the heel a week before the match on pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, man.
there's no point in, because you almost paid it off. You almost paid it off too easily before allowing the proper kind of suspense to build up. I want to say, in the last Ronin, it almost was that easy for Michelangelo, right?
Right. He almost got there.
Exactly. It was almost that easy, but a obstacle was in his way to keep him from achieving that goal instantly. Like, I would have liked to have seen something like that happen, and I hope that later on we can at least get an explanation as to why Curtis decides to go about doing this a different kind of way. I'm confident that they can do it, but I need to see it because I'm not really on board with the way that this issue ended here.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like almost like, okay, the battle of the wits. Like, I want you to see me clear my name, and I want you to see me become more successful than you. That is the only thing I can think of to where you're going to live to see me become better than you. That's
Mm-hmm.
and that's I guess a battle of the intelligence of I'm better than you. That's the only reason why I can. Maybe that will be explained later on. Maybe he emotionally cannot go through with it, and that's hinted later on. Like, oh, he was bullshitting. He's still not over the fact that this man kind of raised him. He's still because if you look at the panels, he's kind of torn about it. It's not like he's saying no, or he got sunned. um in the last couple pages. I'm not gonna lie, man. He kind of got sunned here. he kind of got sunned.
Damn, straight up, bro.
So I think that's one of the two. That's one. Either he emotionally he can't do it, or he wants to show him that the battle of the wits. Yeah, I'm going to clear my name, and also I'm going to become more successful than you. That's only one or two ways I can see why he didn't want to. You want to kill Edwin. Um, the other thing that I have a problem with is his origin. Now, in the original '90s run, Curtis Metcalf is pretty much it's a one for one. He's a successful Tony Stark type of character who works for Ava Industries. The problem is that Ava Industries won't give him his fair share. They make
Okay.
billions of dollars off him, of his ideas and his inventions, and he wants to be properly compensated for his work for the company, and they withhold that compensation from him. So there's a beef where he realizes that there's a little bit of analogy of the bird in the cage, and he realized the bird wasn't free. It thought it was free, but it really wasn't. And so the analogy was also used in the '90s run. So what he thought was this company that was allowing him to be free and gain money was actually still holding him back. There was only a limit to success that they wanted him to achieve. So he basically became hardware, the superhero, as a means to get his fair compensation for his contributions for the company.
Okay.
That's the original run of hardware. It was a man trying to get what was owed to him working for a big Fortune 500 tech company. This version, this version being he was proactive in the first run. This hardware is very reactive. Um I don't like the fact that they tied his origin to the Big Bang. This
Okay.
whole gas attack thing, him formulating the gas that the police used. Here's the problem I have with it. I don't really see this scenario playing out where an incident happens and a company makes the product that makes an incident. Lawyers are involved. People
Litigation.
litigation, lawyers are involved. People go to court. Policemen are not knocking down your door, guns drawn to shoot you for causing something like this. You know, like I don't find this scenario, and I know it's a comic book form, but I just don't feel like the scenario of like blame the black guy and boom, like you're on a witch hunt for him and XYZ. Now he's on the run. I don't feel like that's very. I don't know. I don't feel like it's very believable. I think the closest thing I seen in real life to this is the death of Michael Jackson, where they blamed his physician or his doctor for the sleep treatments. And even then, he had to go to court. He had to testify and do all this stuff. I think a little bit of a slicker way to do this would be like he still works for the company, and they say he's blamed. Well, everything goes on him, and he's like, "Well, I had nothing to do with this." So who did it? And he actually has to work within the company and out as hardware to clear his name. So it's not like I immediately go rogue and I have to go off the grid. It's kind of like I will, like, it's like he goes to work and they all look at him a certain way. And he talks to people and he's like, well, he finds out, well, some people are for me, some people are against me. Hey, can I look at the tapes on the night of such and such? And the person's like, oh, those tapes are gone. Like, they're not there. Something like along the lines like that, like a natural progression to get to this point. But I know it's a comic book. They want to change it up, but I just feel like this gas attack, it's really kind of just dry, and I don't think it really links up. It doesn't sync up as well as the original, and I think this is it's a little bit of a drawback on the character, in my opinion, of this new iteration.
Hmm.
I mean,
I
what are you
mean,
thinking?
no, like now, because see, I went into this kind of with a complete, blank slate. So the way that you kind of explain that, it does, and I do agree with. Well, I guess there's two sides to it here.
All right, go ahead, man.
If if we have a situation where a freak accident happens and a lot of young kids or young adults, teenagers end up dying and being permanently disfigured as a result of it, and the frame up job is blatantly obvious and all signs point to one person, I could understand why. Because I mean, in real life, that would be considered an act of terrorism. But even then, in real life, I've never, like, you know what I'm saying? Even then, yes, police and the way that law enforcement is handled in certain situations is not lawful in most means. But I do agree with what you're saying there. Like a shoot to kill order being put out on any person wanted dead or alive, quote unquote, on American soil seems a little bit far fetched. It does. It seems a little bit out of the realm of reality, even for a comic book, because we didn't have a baseline that was established before the Big Bang happened. Like in the new Batman series, the backdrop for that was kind of already set. You have these peacekeepers who have a shoot to kill mandate order on anyone wearing a mask because XYZ, you know? So we pick up in that world, but we're also given an explanation as to why the situation is so extreme. So I do understand what you're saying there. It seems that we went from A to Z instead of going through the entire alphabet in certain instances here.
Yeah. I think if they would have done, I don't know, like, I know this is good pacing for the action, everything like that. If we would have got like a issue 0, which is really a issue 1, if you do a full story,
Mm-hmm.
if we would have got an issue 0 and they went through those motions to try to clean it up a little bit for us to get to the point where something else is caused for them to go after and to have a shoot on site. You know what I'm saying? Guns drawn and a witch hunt for this person. Sure, I think that would have been needed to kind of get to this point because it's very. I understand they got 6 issues. They gotta get to the scene. they gotta write this thing like there is no season 2. You know what I'm saying? They're writing this knowing it's on the chopping block. So
Yep. And that's the common thread here that I'm seeing with a lot of what's going on in this reboot of Milestone Comics.
yeah, the original runs, they're 10, 20, 30. Yeah, they have space to breathe. In 6 issues, it's hard to do an origin and then to do a full arc. Excuse me, that makes sense. So there is a little bit of leeway you have to give to that, but I feel like an issue 0 explaining more how do you get to this point, because on the police chief is fucked. The person who gave the person who gave the command to do the gas is fucked.
Right. Like I get it, right. Because we're not going after the person that gave the order here. We're not going after the guys who were on the ground that actually pulled the pin to get the gas released. We're just going after the guy who made it and who made it for this multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Right. That never
Because
tested it on anybody? Like,
and we're doing
I
this because he's black.
right. It's just, hey man, it's like it's a multi-billion-dollar tech company, and you guys used this new gas on, well, what was test subject A resulted in, or B or C? It was just like, oh, here you go, we just made this. Like, I don't know, it's like you guys are kind of reaching, but I don't know if it's because we have the little bit of a military background of like, we know everything we use has to pass inspection. We know that, every equipment's certified to the most part. Like, there's definitely layers to having something used out in the field, and there's definitely layers of blame when something like this happens, to the point where you just can't blame one scientist and then your company is off the hook. No. Ava Industries is some hot water. They are on the chopping block. It's not as simple as blame the black guy and then
Oh,
everything's a-okay, and and Edwin is relieved of any stress or problems that come his way. It doesn't work like that. So I don't know. I feel like a issue zero is needed to kind of get more into that, but it is what
nah.
it is. I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no. You're absolutely right, man. Like, motherfuckers are gonna be testifying in court, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Tri- Trial of the century, dude. Like,
Yeah, bro. Like,
yeah, man.
y'all motherfuckers are gonna be testifying in court. You know what I'm saying? Sworn, sealed testimonies in front of grand juries that get locked away for a number of years. Like, yeah, man. Yeah. So it is a comic book, though. So
Yeah, it is. It is a comic book. So, other than that, those are some of the more major differences between this and in the original run. My thing is with these new changes. What I don't want to see is issue 6 comes. He clears his name and everything's a-okay. Like, he starts his own tech company and he can live a public life, okay, like public life again. No, you don't self-destruct control center and kill police and security and catch these kind of bodies, them knowing exactly who you are,
yep.
and then you go back to normality. No. Yeah, that doesn't get excused, even if you didn't cause the Big Bang. So they got to stick the landing. If this is the story of a man who got blamed for something he didn't do, and he sort of sees the evils of, the corporate entities that are out there, and he becomes basically your black superhero equivalent of Anonymous, and real life Anonymous, who hacks into government agencies, who hacks into corporate businesses and tells all the shady deals and all the bad things that they do, releases it to the public so that justice can be, exacted upon these entities. I'm down for that. That's cool. You know what I'm saying? That's a little bit of a different twist on the hardware character. But what I don't want is like these consequences not to matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want him to go through all this and then everything's a-okay and fine and dandy, and he just starts his like Microsoft, his own version of Microsoft, and he's eating caviar and the
Yeah.
multi-million-dollar lifestyle. Nah, he needs to be on the run and kind of have a different identity. It's got to be a permanent change
Right.
for the
Right.
ending.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, man. It can't be a situation where, they end up becoming rival tech companies, and they're taking like subliminal jabs at each other. Nah, bro. Like, it's already gotten too real for any, like, the next couple issues have to pick up and keep that same pace. There
Hmm.
can I mean, yeah, aside from a couple panels to give us the backstory between, the protagonist and the antagonist, we can't have that let up in pace because this first issue already set it up to where we're on the run, we're moving, constant action. Honestly, a lot of similarities in this issue and the new Batman. And I'm not saying that to kind of overshadow and not give this, comic book it's just due, but it's similar in that we're picking up with a character that's already moving. He's already in motion for trying to set events straight that have gone kind of sideways.
Right. Yeah, man. You know what? I was thinking those similarities too, and honestly enough, after reading after reading I Am Batman Zero, what they try to accomplish in that is sort of similar to this, but in a more subtle way. Like I said before, John Ridley's really writing this sort of in code. So I'll be honest, you can almost swap the characters a little bit, the story, and it's like this shit kind of fits hardware. Like this literally is like hardware number zero to a certain. Once you read it, you'll kind of see what I mean. But yeah, man, this is style to a 10. So yeah, he crosses that line. There's more bodies being, the body count on this is already higher than Static and Icon. Like I don't think they're ever going to this level. So it needs to be the pacing needs to be a fast pace. It needs to dial it in. It has to slow down, but yeah, man, the consequences of what happened in this issue needs to stay that throughout all 6 issues. And if they can do that and he emerges as this anonymous type character, this would be one of the few series where like, yeah, I genuinely want to see a season 2. I genuinely want to see what is he going to do to try to take down the system as a high-tech business guru who knows these guys in and out, knows their hangout spots, knows their behaviors, knows their mannerisms, can hack into whatever and use tech that can get him out of situations. I'd be down with a season 2 if this kind of steers in that direction. This is the Milestone book where I'm like, yeah, I want to see a season 2. And I know there's definitely some, I think there's a little bit of forcedness to it with the line of like, I made you matter, especially with the year of 2020 and 2021.
Man.
That's like a punch to the gut. You know what I'm saying? That's like a very direct, that's a very direct dialogue to trigger you. You know what I'm saying? To trigger anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So is it risky to do a kind of a line like that? Could you do a little bit more subtle? Sure, but you're trying to, you're definitely trying to make the bad guy in this circumstance. So I got to give. Oh, go ahead.
No, my bad, bro.
No, go ahead, man.
And I mean, I'm okay. I'm not totally against that line of dialogue because I understand why it was put in there, and I understand like the whole backdrop here. He's basically telling Curtis, I cut you out because I felt you got too big for your britches. I felt that you were doing. I felt you thought that this was going to be the other way. I had to do this to show you that it was always under my hand here. It was always going to go the way I wanted it to go. I'm okay with that as long as this man gets his comeuppance. He has to get his comeuppance. He has to be able to
get the Vince McMahon treatment.
Exactly. This can't anything less than this guy getting the worst end of all of these situations was going to be disappointing. So yeah, man. But you were saying you give this what rating? How do you rate issue number 1 of Hardware?
I know we spoke very negative, I guess. Well, not negative. We just constructive criticism of the origin. I like the pacing. I like the action. I love these visuals. I got the variant cover, the Dennis Cohen cover. It's actually an homage to God, Jim, what was his name? In Marvel, Deathlock. I think it's an homage to Deathlock. Had a cover kind of like this, but Despite the storyline, a little bit of the storyline grievances I have, I enjoyed this, and I'm not sure because Static 2 was to me so shitty, and Icon and Rocket was lukewarm. Um, this jumps right out the gate for me, man. I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10. I
Eight
like
out of 10.
8 out of 10. I mean, I can flip through this just for the art alone, just for the visuals. I mean, this panel of him approaching the freaking helicopter from the pilot's point of view in the rain, man, it's just nasty, man. This is what a comic book should do. You should want to go back and look at it again and again. Like at the end of the day, a comic book's job is to entertain you, and if it can do that and also have you have replay value where you read it and consume it again and look forward to the next issue, it did its job. So this is the strongest Milestone Returns book so far, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 just on it can get a 7 out of 10 on pure visuals, and I'll give it the extra point for not dropping the ball with it. Like I'm actually rooting for this guy Curtis to come through. So
That's
I'm gonna give it 8 out of 10.
that's very important. I say 8 out of 10 as well because I like that, and we kind of talked about this before. Yes, the origin of this Big Bang and everything that happened is obviously meant to invoke feelings and remind you of what's going on in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like is that we're seeing throughout, even throughout Static, throughout Rocket and Icon and Rocket, and throughout this, we're seeing stories that are contained to the characters and how they are dealing with their own lives. This Big Bang situation that happened doesn't change the fact that they were dealing with things in their lives prior to that situation. The
Mm-hmm.
Big Bang just ups the stakes. And for hardware, I like that the stakes are high, but it's still an issue that he's capable of handling on his own. The world isn't going to end here. The world and the
No.
fate of the universe is not at stake throughout issue number one of hardware. And I anticipate or suspect that throughout these next couple issues, we're not going to be faced with a planetary threat. I like that
No.
he is the focus of this story. The focus of this story is how does he get out of this situation? How does he beat the odds? How does he overcome being double crossed? And I hope that as it continues, we get to experience and kind of get more things in common with him. He doesn't crack wise, he doesn't make stupid ass jokes, but at the same time,
Oh, hold on. Can you say again? You went out.
yeah. I was saying he's not that edge lord type of character that's mad at the world and is trying to get his payback either. So I'm here for it, man. 8 out of 10. I'm looking forward to issue number 2. And yeah, they so far, I'm gonna say this is my favorite issue of Milestone Returns from beginning
Oh
to end.
yeah. Easy, man. I think it helps you have original Milestone talent on this book as well. I think that really helps. And I'll give props to Brandon Thomas for writing the book, and in a way he paced it very well. And I'm looking forward to the journey. I'm looking forward to the journey to have Curtis get his life or clear his name and have some sort of life back. I mean, the issue is called Angry Black Man.
Wait, what?
On the last page, one of the last pages, give you the credits. It says episode 1, Angry Black
Oh,
Man.
oh yeah. All right, I just had to look at that. Now, I mean, he didn't seem too angry, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, when you catch bodies like that, I guess, I guess there, yeah. I mean, there is definitely sort of an anger to him, with his double cross, but I dig it, man. And I'm not the type to read Iron Man. I'll be honest with you. I like Tony Stark in the movies. I'm not a big fan of Tony Stark on print, and the fact that this character has gotten my attention to where I'm reading full issues of him. I've collected, I think I got about 13, 14 issues of the original Hardware run. And I have Hardware #1. I got it last year when DC Fandom popped off and they said these characters are coming back. I got on a nice lucky streak. And I got about 17 issues of Hardware. So I got to go back and read through those once I get my bins removed from the garage and find them shits again. But but yeah, dude, this is cool, man. This is a cool character. I would have gave him a chance before I was, on like first glance, you're like, who is this kind of junkyard Iron Man type guy? But it fits, man. I like it. It's a different style to him, and it's kind of like it's like a throwback. They didn't even redesign him. First of all, like they didn't even redesign him. This is pretty much a 1-for-1 from his '90s run. They didn't try to sleek him. I like it. They didn't try to sleek him up. They didn't try to give him some slick suit or like Static got the new drip. Icon and Rocket got a new look, but this is very like you said, old school. Meant for the hardcore. This is very like meant for us, literally. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for all you listeners out there. Let us know what you thought about Hardware issue #1. Did it meet your expectations? Did it exceed your expectations? Let us know in the comment section below. And with that, we're out.